Now, what I am saying is that when you don't continue a relationship, you lose the benefits. You lose access. You lose that opportunity. Listen, sometimes I'm not saying that God is not merciful, because he is. I'm not saying that God won't answer your prayers, because he will. But what I'm saying is that you lose that access. You don't have that connectivity. You need to connect with God if you want to restore those benefits. You need to connect with God if you want to have access to his presence. Listen, there's a reason why some of us in here have felt dry. There's a reason why some in here have said, listen, I think God is fake because I've never felt him. There's a reason why. I got to tell you why. Because you abandoned your relationship with God. So how are you going to feel God's presence? How are you going to be in God's presence? How are you going to have access to the holiness of God if you've destroyed the altar in your lives? How are you going to be able to feel God's presence if you haven't even restored the altar? If you've abandoned your relationship with God? Listen, I want to tell you tonight that before you go any further, before we continue talking about the miracle that happens through the fire, I want to tell you that God wants to restore, first of all, he wants to restore your relationship. He wants to make sure that before you leave this place, you leave connected with God. You leave connected with his hand. You leave holding God and saying, God, here I am, God. You leave saying, God, I know that you've got my back. I know that we're together. I know that you're going to be with me. I know that, God, I know, God, that you're going to be with me wherever I go. Are you with me? All right, here we go. Okay, here we go. He began to shout. Verse 37. He starts to shout. He's already poured water 3 times on this altar. An altar he repaired. In other words, he repaired what? A relationship. In other words, he's restoring the relationship. In other words, by him restoring the altar, in other words, by him building back the altar, he is saying, listen, this was broken and you didn't have anywhere to pray. But now that I repaired it, now you have access. You can come and pray. You can come in here anytime you want, and you can come and pray to God, and God's going to hear you. So he repaired the altar, restored the altar, but now he did the impossible. He poured water where he needed fire. Verse 37 begins to say this. Answer me, O Lord. Answer me so these people will know that you, O Lord, are God, and that you are turning their hearts back again. This is a powerful key right here. Then the fire of the Lord fell and burnt up the sacrifice, the wood, the stones, and the soil, and also licked up the water in the trench. When all these people saw this, they fell prostrate and cried, the Lord, he is God. The Lord, he is God. He used the water. Why did he use the water? Can anybody tell me why water was used?
To explain that God can still do it.
Explain that God can still do it? Anyone else can go a little bit detailed?
Nothing's impossible to God.
Because nothing's impossible to God.
Amen.
Listen. He showed them that, listen, you guys, he told the other guys, you go ahead and build your altar. You go ahead and do whatever it needs to take to build fire, to bring fire. And they didn't put water on it. When he poured water, he was saying, listen, my God is bigger than your God. He was taunting them. He was almost making fun of them. He was almost messing with them. Have you ever seen somebody that plays basketball better than the kid that he's playing around with? Have you ever seen him? He starts to taunt him. He's playing ball, and he starts spinning around, and he puts his booty on him and stuff, and the kid's like trying to get the ball. He's all like, ah! And he's all like this, and he's going around his legs and doing all this stuff. He's making it kind of impossible for the kid to get it. He taunts them. I believe that was kind of like a taunt to them. He already knew the outcome. Elijah, when he stepped into, listen, I got to tell you, listen. It was almost an impossible fight for everyone else. On the outside, if you were to look at it on the outside, y'all got scared. On the outside, dun, 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 you're going to die. On the outside, dun, you're going to die. On the outside, you see 450 people. You see almost a whole church against one person. On the outside, if you were to look at it, you see one guy standing here, and you see a multitude of people. And if you were to look at it from a spectator's view, all these people in the ring against one person. And on the outside, you're like, man, pobrecito, lo van a, que gacho. They're going to beat him up. And you look at him from the outside, and you're like, oh, man, they're going to leave him bloody. They're going to kill him. Get out. Run. Run. Correle, pobrecito. It's my cousin. And from the outside, it looks impossible. It looks like, man, they're going to whoop on this guy. But, man, they don't know. They don't know. They don't know what he knows. They don't know that when he stepped into the ring, he stepped in with the biggest, baddest person in the whole wide world. They didn't know that when he stepped in, that as soon as they turn around, they were all right here. But as soon as they turn around, there's somebody just bigger than them just going to go. You know that when he was stepping into the ring, he was stepping in with the baddest person in the world. They didn't know that when he was stepping into the ring, he was stepping in with the person who had control of everything. Wasn't going to be able to happen. From the outside, it looked like an even if you put a river, even if you made the he knew that God is a great God. And this is I want to tell you that there are some challenges that they're going to see impossible. There are going to be some challenges in your life that are going to seem, man, they can't screw over. There's going to be some challenges that's going to seem like against me. Screw over. But I got to tell you that when you have God on your side, our God is a big God. Our God, Chihuahua. Our God is a big bad pit bull. Our God is a big God. Listen. Sometimes we say, pobrecito, ay, el Diosito. Listen, my God is not a Diosito. You might be a Diosito, but mine's a big God. And so I got to tell you that regardless of what challenges come against you, regardless of what you're facing in life, regardless of what's happening in your world, I got to tell you that you step into the ring with God on your than anybody. That's a big God. He came in and God did the miracle. Listen, I think that sometimes we need to put God in a situation for a miracle to show up. Do you understand what I'm saying? God in a situation for him to do a miracle. We need to put God in a place where, listen, sometimes we lack faith. Sometimes we don't believe. Sometimes we don't believe that God is a big God. Sometimes we believe God can heal the headaches, but we don't believe that God can heal the cancers. We believe that God can heal your toe that you stubbed, your big fat toe, your ugly toe. We believe that God can heal your ingrown toenail. But we don't believe that God can heal AIDS or can heal your grandma. God can heal your mom. Listen, I got to tell you that my God is a big God. There's nothing impossible to God. So when he did this, when Elijah poured water 3 times over his altar, it was because he was trying to show them that, listen, there is nothing that you can do that can come against my God. There is nothing that you can do that can come and be impossible for my God. My God can do all things. My God is a great God. He repaired the altar. In other words, he restored the relationship. And once he restored the relationship, he showed everybody what the benefits were. He showed everybody that when you have access to God, when you repair or restore your altar, when you rebuild your relationship with God, you restore it, you fix it, you put it back together. When you restore the relationship, listen, you have access to the greatest power, the greatest being in the world. That means that nothing is going to be impossible for you. I want you to stand up right there where you're at. If you're between the ages of 11 and 14 or are in junior high and are in the Laredo area, I want to invite you to come to any one of our services. For directions or schedules, please call the number on the screen, or you can just email us at patyouth@live.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at MiltonICM. You can also check out our MySpace for more pics, blogs, and updates at www.myspace.com/patyouth.